Junkies presents Weld Wednesday with AWS. Brought to you by the American Welding Society. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, Andrew, welcome to Weld Wednesdays with AWS. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your company and how you got into being such a skilled trades advocate.
My story starts on September 11th, 2001, when I was 23 years old, living in New York City at the time. And the planes had just hit the World Trade Center. And like everyone else, we were in shock. And I got this feeling inside that I needed to do something. And I got this crazy idea of calling my friend in Rhode Island and convincing him to come into New York City and go down with me. And after a few days, he came in this big blue truck with an American flag on the back, and he's dressed as a tradesperson. And he's got a hard hat and gear for me. And all of a sudden, I find myself with him racing down the West Side Highway in New York City from checkpoint to checkpoint. And we make it all the way down to the World Trade Center. We park the car. And then I find myself with him on the World Trade Center. And the entire day, we were helping tradespeople and emergency workers find survivors. And I was watching the tradespeople on site, and they were running into unstable structures. And they were doing any means necessary to find survivors. And you talk about life-changing events, not only personally, but professionally. I was in IT at the time. And after that incident, I quit my job a couple of weeks after. I had a good job in New York City, and I had quit my job. And I had these sleepless nights for months and months and months. How do I get back to the skilled trades that I saw on 9/11? And that's when I co-founded an online tool and equipment business with my brother named Toolfetch about 20 years ago. We're still going strong today. We sell tools to the skilled trades, to professionals such as welders, carpenters, plumbers, and other blue-collar skilled trades. So these are the men and women who are building, repairing our infrastructure of buildings, bridges, tunnels, roads. And we reach them by offering one of the largest online tool and equipment catalogs on the internet with over 1 million different products from 650 different vendors. So products like lifts, cement mixers, drain cleaners, products like that. That is my way to get back to the skilled trades, and dating back to 2001 and what I saw. And that's my way to get back to the skilled trades. That's how I started.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even imagine what it was like being there on September 11th. I watched it from my bed at home. I remember it was like right around 9 o'clock in the morning. I got my mother-in-law told me, she's like, you got to turn on the news. And, sat there and watched that. And it was surreal. And like you said, I mean, there was, people just running into unstable buildings to go in there and recover people, risking, everything, life and limb to go in there and help others.
Yeah. And I was in such awe that it just changed everything. And people ask me were you happy in IT? I was meant to do this. It's almost like, divine intervention, like someone took me and put me on this path. And I felt it was like my duty to keep giving back to the skilled trades. And I've been doing it for 20 plus years. And then I started putting video out on LinkedIn and other platforms about the skilled trades. And I've been connecting with so many individuals on LinkedIn and other platforms who feel the same way. And I feel like I'm a voice or a beacon for the skilled trades that may or may not have a voice, and just talking about what's going on with wages, what's going on just in the skilled trades, and 40% are retiring over the next 5 or 10 years. So I always come up every day with a new message or video, and I keep putting it out there.
Yeah, and that statistic is mind-blowing. 40 to 50% of the skilled trades workers in this country are leaving in the next 5 years. And we don't have the bodies to replace them. Where do we start? I mean, have you spoken with other folks in the industry about this? I mean, where do we start to get the younger generation motivated to get into skilled trades, to pursue a career in welding or plumbing or HVAC or electrical or any of this stuff?
You have to go back to where they're listening to the messages about the skilled trade. So there's this old adage that it's dirty, it's dusty, it's smelly, it's for the bad kids, option B when you can't, get a white collar job. And that's just a misconception. And I think it just needs to start there with the messaging. So what are parents talking about with kids behind the scenes? Are they saying go to college? Are they saying consider a trades path? What's happening? In the household. What's happening when they decide, are they looking to go to college, or maybe they're looking to go to a trades path? What's being discussed there? Are they really thinking this through, going through a 4-year college degree or going to a trade school where you could start making money right away? It's less debt, and the options and the trajectory for the ladder of success is just mind-boggling if you put the time and effort into it. But you just need to get to parents, you need to get to teachers, and you need to get to guidance counselors. I always say that parents, guidance counselor, teachers are like the best referrals for college, because they're giving all this information to go to college, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I keep telling people, that there is another option, and it's the skilled trades.
Yeah, and I think a lot of parents, they look back. I know my parents did. Both my parents were in blue collar work, and they kind of told me, go to school, stay in, get good grades, graduate, and go off and pursue, college. And I was like, yeah, I just don't know if that's for me. But I mean, that's what was beaten into my head the whole time. I go in my high school year, talk to the guidance counselor, they're like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? What colleges are you looking at? And I was like, not really looking at any colleges. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Like, I think I need like another 4 years to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. And, so I jumped on that track. But you're right, it starts at home, and then it starts at school and, with the guidance counselors and the teachers. And you need these positive, these people that are trying to kind of like mold your mind into opening up and say, hey, there's skilled trades doesn't have to be a plan B. It could be plan A, because I went that route. Like I said, it was beaten into my head the whole time I was growing up. So I went ahead and I did college. I went and got a bachelor's in construction. And it looks really good sitting in my safe at the house, because like I decided about 3/4 of the way through, I was like, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. The more I get into this degree, the more I get into this type of work, the less I'm going to be able to use my tools. The less I'm going to be out on the job site. The less I'm actually going to be able to physically see my accomplishments. And I think that's part of the cool thing about being a skilled trades person is you build stuff that's a legacy. I've worked in theme parks. I've put up buildings and like all this stuff. I get to drive by it and say, like, I built that. Skilled trades are what, pushes America. I'm in the process right now of building my own school, and I've had to hire some skilled trades people in there because I know my limitations. I just don't know when to quit, but I knew better enough to hire it done. And some of the checks that I've been having to write lately, to perform some of this work, it's ridiculous. It's like, man, it's almost cheaper to hire an attorney. So, I mean, there's money to be made in the skilled trades route. And these people that I'm dealing with, they're not like the high school dropouts and everything that, took skilled trades as a plan B. These are highly intelligent people running and operating and managing a business and a crew of people. And we just got to figure out a way to instill that into the parents as well as the guidance counselors. I think that's where it really has to start is, guidance counselors in high schools. There
is this sense of accomplishment, like you said. I built that building. I built that bridge. I repaired that road. There is such a fulfillment piece and gratification for that. And that's something that someone can't take away from you. And I do feel that with kids, that if you show them what the end result is, you're not just building a school, you're building a school for education. You're building a building, you're creating jobs. You're building roadways or repairing roadways, people can get to work. There's a lot of things that you're doing for the greater good. And the skilled trades keep everything running. I always say we'd be SOL if the skilled trades disappeared one day. Just all plumbers and welders, everybody disappeared one day. I mean, we'd be, forget it. It's just unreal. And it's a scary statistic. Especially in the welding trade, I believe the last statistic was about 155,000 welders are nearing or approaching retirement age. And that's just mind-boggling. mind-boggling. There's not enough people to replenish them. And we just need to get in front of people with the messaging, whether it's your podcast, my videos, and everyone else who's doing their own thing. Just keep pounding sort of the message that it's a viable career option. And there's a lot that you can do. You can start your own business one day. You could work your way up the ladder. I always say that at some point, skilled trades will be able to charge $100 an hour. I don't want to wait 4 weeks for a plumber or an electrician. I want, somebody on the other end to fix the plumbing, so I can flush the toilet or my sink gets clogged, that type of stuff. I don't want to be in that situation. We are kind of teetering along those lines, that these long lead times for the people that keep everything running. And I hope it doesn't get to that, but that's where all this messaging sort of comes in and getting the younger generation involved.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize it's, how important skilled trades are until they go to flush their toilet and it doesn't work, or they go to turn on the light switch and it, nothing happens, or, a breaker pops, or the air conditioning. Man, I live down here in Florida, and when the air conditioning goes out, I mean, that's a serious issue. So, and I've had to do that before, man. Like, I'm calling an AC tech at like 10 o'clock at night because it gets hot down here. That's something that's kind of out of my scope of work. I have no idea how the an AC works, so I call and hire that done. And once again, when I have to sign a check to that individual that comes out and repairs my AC system, especially after hours, it's like, man, maybe I'm in the wrong business. But I think that's the cool thing is about the skilled trades that I feel after working with a lot of young men and women for the past 9-10 years that I've been in education. They want to see the tangible results. They want to know that their work has meaning. What better way than to show them, say, hey, look, you can get into this skill trade. You can get into welding. Okay, you want to leave a legacy. You want to have a job or a career that, that means something, that you can see tangibly. Get into one of these skilled trades. Like you said, the bridge that you have to drive over to get to work, the school bus that everybody's, all the kids are taking to school, the airplanes that are flying around, above us. I mean, there's thousands of them a day that are just up there moving around that you don't see. The skyscrapers, the buildings, like all of this stuff, you can see the results. So, I mean, you're becoming, or you're part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that, a lot of people look down on millennials or the younger generation. They're like, they're lazy. They don't want to work. It's like, no, they want to make sure that their work matters. So you got to figure out a way to show them that, they're needed. They're essential, for lack of a better term. I mean, we just went through that whole pandemic thing and they classified people as essential, but look at all the people that they considered are deemed essential. Those were your carpenters, your plumbers, your HVAC techs, your electricians, your welders. All my students, because they couldn't go to school, I got them turned on to employment. So, I mean, they were working throughout the pandemic. And then they quit their jobs to come back to school when we could all regroup. But, I mean, if that's not a testament as to how important skilled trades are, I don't know what else would be. Because, like you said, if all the tradespeople took a day off, I mean, this world would fall off its axis.
Oof.
Done.
Yeah. And even in a recession to some degree, it's a stable job in the trades. Certain projects might dry up, but everyone needs something fixed around their house. Like you said, your AC goes, or something in your plumbing or your sink or your shower or your dryer or anything in between needs to be fixed. So there's always an option or an opportunity for someone who has a unique niche in a trade. And I see it even here in my neighborhood. There's always people passing around information like, I need this work done. Who do I go to? And there's always sort of like a couple of names that are thrown around of who to go to. And these are really reliable individuals, and they do very well. They do very well. I always joke when somebody says, who has the big house down the street? Oh, it's someone in the trades. It's a plumber, an electrician. They're like, what? People are like, what? I'm like, they do very well. They do very well. It's just not looked, some people just don't look at it like that. They just look at it as, oh, well, somebody works with their hands, but they're skilled and they provide a service, everything that you take for granted. And people sometimes just, that's just somebody who, fixes something around the house. It's not true. Mm-hmm. Because if they didn't come, you'd be nowhere.
Yeah. I'd like to take a handful of guidance counselors down to a mud hole. So I don't know. You're up in New York, right?
Yeah.
You guys have like off-road mud parks or anything up there?
Yeah.
I know that it's huge up in Michigan, but like down here, like we'll go to the mud hole, and like these people have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not even kidding. I'm not forgetting a decimal sign or a comma anywhere. Hundreds of thousands of dollars wrapped up in these off-road vehicles that they'll throw on the back of a 30-foot gooseneck trailer and then haul it with a $130,000 truck. And on the side of that truck is like, this, Smith's Roofing or Mike's Plumbing or, something like that. That's their regular work truck. But I mean, you can make a lot of good money in any of these industries if you're smart with your money. And a lot of people think, oh, you need to go to college, you got to get a degree, and then, you can go work for somewhere and you just climb your way up the corporate ladder. And then, in 10 years, once you've paid off your student loan, you can really start making some money. Or option B, go to trade school, possibly while you're in high school, graduate, get certified, get some sort of endorsements behind you before you step out in industry. And then you can start making good money right up front. Now, I got to be careful saying that because there's still certain parts of this country where no matter what skilled trade you come out of school with, the money's just not there. And it could be regional. Like I've got buddies up in Michigan. They're like, oh man, welding sucks. I can't make it in this market. Meanwhile, you can start down here at some of the aerospace companies and you can make six figures. Like no lie, no embellishment, none of that. There's companies out there that are like that. But not everybody's where the work's at. And that's the unfortunate thing because, everybody pays a little bit different around the country.
Sure. And I've heard that, I speak to welders and plumbers and contractors around the country. I hear that too. It's mixed to where you need to go, where, like you said, where the jobs are. But there are mixed results that you hear from people that there's not enough money. And I think the average earnings is like 25 an hour for welders, or about almost 50K a year. Correct me if I'm wrong on my numbers.
It really depends. Yeah. So, I mean, I've recently had one of the last classes that I graduated. I had students coming out of the program at $24 an hour, building aircrafts for a well-known manufacturer in the state of Florida. I don't want to name drop or anything, but right out of school, they were $23, $24 an hour. But the big thing was that company sought us out. They came to our facility. They looked through it. They're like, hey, what's your curriculum look like? What are the students learning when they come out? They just got like a general overview, and they said, we'd like to schedule another meeting. This time we want to bring our shop supervisor out that actually does all the welding. And so they came back out and they had a whole box of coped parts and everything, all chromoly material. And, they pitched, the job to all the students. And they said, if you're interested in applying, come on over here to this table. Let's weld some stuff up. And I mean, they welded stuff out and they cut the parts up and, did some internal inspection and everything. And they were like, okay, here's about what you could be making where you're at. But there's also other companies come in and they're like, yeah, we're starting off at like 14, 15 an hour. I'm not going to send my students to those places. I mean, you can start off at Wawa at like 17. And my goodness, I don't even want to bring up Buc-ee's because they're like $24 an hour starting off as a cashier.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the whole skills gap is like we can't just look at the skills gap and say, okay, we got a bunch of people that are retiring. Nobody wants to take these jobs. We also have to look at the wage gap as well. If you want people to come in and work for you and you're charging a premium, you should be paying a premium to your employees.
As you should. If you're good at what you do, you should be able to make the money that you want, right? And these skills, as you said, if 8 or 10 skilled trades individuals are retiring and only one's coming in, well, the replenishment is not there. So at some point, there's only so much AI, chat GPT, and everything else is going to replace in automation. You still need the physical hands of somebody doing the work.
Right.
It's not there. It's not a robot that could just, you call upon and you can do all this type of work. So you need the hardworking individuals. And yes, wages is always a sense of frustration out there. And it's not everywhere, but like you said, there's mixed results with certain companies. And if companies want to bring on these individuals, yes, they'll have to take a look at their wages. But is there more to it? Do individuals, are they just looking at it from a wage perspective, or are they looking at it from well, I can get into this particular company, work at a certain level. There's a training program, there's a mentorship program, and I can work my way up. And over time, I can do better because individuals also want recognition, young individuals. It's not, yes, the money has to be there, but if you make $2 somewhere else, you're not getting the recognition, you're not getting the training, you're not getting the mentorship, you're going to be kind of stuck and maybe upset at that other company. So I think there's still a lot more to it, but wages is always going to be, in those top 3 or 4, high priority things that people want.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, you got to know what you're worth too. And a lot of welders I know, they travel to go find the work. You got to be careful with that. I mean, you got to make investments doing that. You need a truck. You might need a fifth wheel trailer. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. You have to sacrifice weekends and holidays and birthdays and anniversaries and all that stuff. So I mean, you got to make sure it's worth it. But a lot of people also want a plan for growth. I know I've left a company or a couple companies on my path as a welder just because there was no opportunity for growth. It's like, okay, I've hit my pinnacle. I'm making pretty decent money, but from here on out, it's only going to be like 25, 50 cents an hour extra, every 6 to 8 months or whatever. There's no forward advancement for me. So I don't see myself working here that much longer. I mean, there's got to be opportunities for growth.
Exactly. You need to find, obviously, a place that you feel that there is growth, or at least they show you that the growth is there. And you maybe will have to move to another company. That's possible. But hopefully you garner a certain amount of skills from working on that job that you can take over to the next job, right? So it's not a full dead end, but you got to the point where you were able to uh, you know get some extra skills that you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't take the job. So there is that as well. But I understand where you're coming from. I mean, it's just a matter of finding the right company with the right mix that makes sense, that they can allow you to climb the ladder of success, and hopefully maybe one day you become the CEO of the company, that you kind of work your way up slowly from there. But you need to be with the right organization. So
yeah,
sometimes you have to move on if it's not right.
I think UPS is like that, where you have to. Everybody starts offloading the trucks. Like they don't hire in managers, supervisors, CEOs, or anything like that. You've got to start at the ground floor and kind of work your way up, and that's a good way to do it because it kind of lays a plan out. And it's like, if you want to advance, here's the opportunities. If you don't, if you're content doing with what you want to do, just keep doing that. But if you want to grow and, make additional money or come into a different position or do, work in a different area or sector, here's the plan. These are the things that you need to get checked off. Very similar to like an apprenticeship program. I'm huge on apprenticeship programs, and it doesn't have to be the whole union versus non-union or any of that debate. Like there's a lot of, privately owned companies that have apprenticeship programs, and they've got a pathway to success, and say, okay, you want to make $2 an hour more? Here's the certifications you need to get. Or, here's the classes you need to take. They, some companies have, as part of their apprenticeship program, they have different classes that you have to take in order to, achieve specific endorsements or certifications. And then you can kind of start moving yourself up the ladder.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get into an apprenticeship program where you're going to school and you're being paid while you're doing the apprentice, wow, that's amazing. And you're learning all the skills that you need to take sort of that next step. You need to walk in the shoes. And I had done a post on this, like if you eventually want to be a head of a construction company, or anything in welding or any type of trade, you need to walk in those shoes. You cannot not walk in those shoes. You need to start, like you said, with UPS, you need to start at the ground level, because how would you know if you just, you went in as an executive, but you didn't know what was going on, from, these other jobs in the field. So I would say that, yes, you'd have to start from the ground up, and you'd be a much better business owner. You can relate to your outside technicians and people in the trades if you've done that work throughout your journey. If not, it's kind of hard to connect. So I'm a big believer of starting from the bottom and kind of working your way up.
Right. Now, do you serve on any like advisory boards or anything in your city or your area, or work with any of the local schools or anything?
Not specifically. Obviously, I work with AWS. But as far as other trade schools here and there, I'll give some guidance out there, but not sort of specifically. So it's for me, it's more about the messaging and more so about, you know, about the skilled trades and about sort of the trades gap and getting people into the trades. That's kind of where I kind of focus. But I kind of, they kind of share my content, I share their content, that type of stuff on the social media platforms.
Now, how has your content been received? Because I mean, I know you're definitely on LinkedIn and TikTok. I mean, do you find a lot of people are agreeing with you, or are they disagreeing, or are they providing, different points that you haven't thought of before?
So it's interesting. When I first started this back in September of last year on LinkedIn, and I started putting out content, within 2 or 3 videos, one of the videos went super viral. And it was one of the videos, it was welding is a dying career. And it was almost like, wait a second, what did he just say? And then I went into about statistics of people are retiring and we need more people. But that video just went viral. And then I've had other videos from there. And once I got over the vanity metrics of that type of video, I started recognizing that there's so many people in the skilled trades on LinkedIn. And that's kind of where I hyper focus, is on LinkedIn. And then I started connecting with other individuals, and they feel the same way about the skilled trades. They want to, correct the skilled trades gap. And I started working with different individuals and people who are podcasts and people who are putting the messaging out. And it's been perceived very well. I'm consistent. I always put out a tidbit about the skilled trades, about what's going on out there, that there are opportunities out there, what you can do, apprenticeships, that type of stuff. But it's been perceived very well overall. And it's just, you can get the feedback from your audience, because if it wasn't working, obviously it would be a different approach, and I maybe go a different direction. But it's been perceived very well, and I continue on, and I try to stay consistent every day.
No, that's great. I mean, I said it before 100 times, but I think, there's a lot of downsides to social media. However, it's a great way to get your message out there. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, it's a good way to interact with people. It's a good way to show them, look, this is the type of cool stuff that we're doing. I mean, like, that's my feed on no matter which social media platform I go onto. It's like, if I'm on LinkedIn, it's a bunch of like welders and company owners and things like that. And if I get onto Instagram, well, it's pretty similar on Instagram, but there's a lot more photo and video. But it allows the younger generation to look at these things and get exposure to the skilled trades, whether it's any of them, more specifically welding. I really like welding, obviously. But they can actually see that. They can, see somebody in their garage, building a frame for a hot rod. They can see an iron worker like walking up on the beams. I mean, there's great YouTube channels of guys that, they have their GoPros strapped to their hard hat, and they're up there walking the iron, and they're punching, or putting pieces in, and like all this cool stuff. So I mean, it's great exposure, and I think if that's, that should be leveraged a little bit more to get the younger generation involved. You've got to expose them. You can't just say, hey, welding's a great career. Most of the kids in school, they have no idea what welding actually is. But if you can show them a video, you can show them the type of work that somebody's doing, the things that can be built, the things that can be fabricated, the places you can work. I mean, it's really cool to be able to see all that. I know one guy, Jonathan Herrera, he's flying all over the world, doing welding and different things. He's doing some time out in Hawaii right now. But it's really cool for the younger generation to be like, man, I've always wanted to travel the world and be able to get paid for it. Well, cool. I mean, just become a really good welder, and you can travel all around the world and, make repairs on different, facilities throughout the entire, worldwide on a global scale. You can get out there and do that.
Exactly. You're not stuck in your four walls, right? You're not sitting at a desk. You're in the air, you're in the sun, you're in the elements. Some people enjoy that. And that's the excitement of, especially something like in welding or another trade, that you're outside, you're interacting with other people, and you're building something, like you said, that can be shown for years to come. And you've built that, you've done that. And it's that sense of fulfillment, and it's that sense of pride that goes along with it. And, if it's for you, then you need to work your butt off, and you need to level up, and you need to work with uh, people who've been in the trade for a while. So someone who's been there and done that is hopefully they'll be open to work with you and to show you the ropes. And by working with somebody who's a mentor, maybe can cut out a good amount of time and show you kind of the ropes and get you to sort of that next level. So just being open and being a sponge and taking it all in, and just learning what you can will get you to, or get you to level up, climb the ladder.
Now, how do you think we can, because you mentioned it earlier, there's this massive perception that, construction in general or skilled trades in general, it's dark, dirty, and dangerous, and, it's bad to work with your hands. How do we go about changing that perception? Not just for the young people, but I know there's a lot of folks that are in white collar. I had a lady reach out to me today. I think she was in IT for several years, very similar to yourself. And she started taking a nighttime welding program. And now at 40 years of age, she wants to, quit her day job and get into blue collar work. How do we start changing that perception and showing people this is what's really happening? It's not the same as, when your grandfather did it. Because I have people all the time, the parents, they would come through and, they were like, well, the parents would come through with their kid and say, well, my grandfather was a welder and, he did it for 20 years and now he's like blind or, colorblind, well, a lot of things have changed, but how do we go about changing that perception that they have that it's dark, dirty, and dangerous?
Yeah. And if you can get the younger generation down to a job site, if you can show them what people are doing, the safety that's being put into everything, safety is number one on a job site, right? So that's extremely important. That people might think, well, it's just unsafe. Why would I be there? Well, it's not necessarily true. Yes, there are cautions and things that do happen on job sites, but usually safety is sort of the number one priority. Just sharing with kids and taking them down the job site. It's not a guy, with a wheelbarrow and a dusty wheelbarrow. That's not what it is. There's obviously a lot more to it, but showing them and bringing them down to the job site and sharing with them what they can do, what they're building, what they're welding, what they're doing in plumbing or electrical is the greater good that you're doing for a city, or you're doing for somebody's residence or school. And I think it's just changing sort of that attitude that it's not what you think it is about that. It's just, come home and your hands are dirty. It's not that. There's a lot more. There's fulfillment. There's an accomplishment that's tied to this. And also there is good compensation if you put the time and effort into it. But it's what you make out of it at the end of the day. It's what you put in is what you're going to get out. And you need to work your butt off just like anything else that you do. But changing sort of the perception is just, it's a slow burn. It's not something that's going to be done overnight. But through messaging, through, like I said, your podcast or another individual's podcast is talking about the skilled trades and talking about sort of the benefits of the skilled trades. I do see that the tide is sort of shifting, that, there's more people sort of interested in the trades. I hear it just from my messaging and hearing the comments and hearing about parents whose kids who are interested. They're not going to go to college. They're going to try to go the trades route, and they're interested, and that individual is good with their hands and they have a skill set. So I start seeing all these things that are happening out there. And I think we're doing a good job, and I think we're making a good impact overall.
Mm-hmm. I kind of wish, that there was more of a push, just from a higher level, whether it's at a federal level or whatever, because if it's blatantly obvious to all the skilled workers out there and all the organizations like AWS and, all the different companies that are involved with skilled trades, that there's an upcoming shortage. Why aren't we bringing some of these programs back to the high school level, or even in the middle school level? Like when I went through high school, we could take wood shop and pottery and driver's ed and welding and like all these different vocations while we were in school, or at least get exposed to a bunch of them and say, hey, I really wasn't into this one, but this welding program is awesome. Or, this woodworking program, next semester we get to frame a small house or build a tiny home. Like, why? I just don't understand why there's not that much of an investment in education to do that. It's like they resort to standardized testing to figure out what your aptitude is. And there's no kinesthetic, there's no, let's put them in put them in a room and see if they can do some high level problem solving. Let's see if they can do some critical thinking. No, it's, best guess A, B, C, or D. And that's the way that, that's the way that we're educating our children nowadays, instead of saying, okay, you're really not all that great when it comes to a textbook stuff, but man, you nailed this fabrication project over here, or this science project. I mean, there's got to be a bigger push for STEM. And I know that's kind of like a hot button word these days, but I just don't think we're putting enough into the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics that, the buzzword it would have you believe.
Where are all the shop classes?
Exactly.
Right? What happened to all the shop? I didn't take a shop. I don't remember taking a shop class in school. And that used to be a requirement back in the day. And it was so necessary. Just even if you don't get into a trade, if you just working with your hands and fixing things around the house, it helps you tremendously. But if you get an individual that has a technical spark, somebody who just likes working with their hands, that might just be like the spark that says, you know what? I didn't know about this whole trades thing. If you get them young enough, if you don't have the shop class, they might miss the opportunity, go to college and maybe do something else. And maybe obviously be successful in something else, but they've missed sort of the opportunity by being exposed at an early age in a shop class. And that's just, it was all taken out because of the push for college. We should go to, someone should go get a 4-year degree and come out and get a white collar job, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I'm a byproduct of college. I went to school for 4 years and I came out more confused than I was in school.
Yeah.
And I was pushed into so many different things. I was a programmer. I was in finance. I was in business. I was in IT. And then in this incident, obviously with 9/11, I got into selling tools and equipment for the skilled trades. Like, I was just all over the place. And that happens to a lot of people, that people go through the system and they come out and they're looking around like, wait a second, I don't want to do this. And they just invested, 6 figures into an education, and they're just changing now their path. And this happens, I hear this quite often, even friends who say, I'm just not happy with what I'm doing, but I have to do it. It's just one of those things. And I think you need to bring back shop classes, because it's interesting. Our infrastructure is a C minus, and they want to rebuild the bridges and tunnels and roads and bridges, but they don't have enough people to do it. I mean, how do you get enough people to get in it if you're not even having shop classes in school for people who might be interested? It's not there. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to make some swift changes. I think to some degree the skilled trades gap and that 40% are retiring is kind of downplayed a little bit. People kind of know it, but it's kind of downplayed. And I don't think people realize the situation sort of that we're in. It's just, a prime example would be that I have an individual who usually fixes stuff around a house. He does one of our dryers conked out. And I was talking to him, and he's like 63, 64, and he's about to retire. He's like, nobody wants my job. I was like, why does anybody want your job? He's like, nobody wants my job. I make good money. I have no debt. I can retire, and I'm in a great position. Why wouldn't anybody want my job? And we just got to this conversation of what's going on, that kids are just not interested in the skilled trades, and kids are going into AI and technology and social media and other things, and they feel it's just not worthwhile to get into skilled trades. I think we can change that sort of perception, again, going back to the messaging. But if the shop class is not there, then that person who was good with their hands or might have been interested in doing something in the trades, it never would have happened because of shop class. So I think I think it should be put back in. I think it should be a mandatory thing. And I think you'd see a rise in the amount of people who would at least be interested in going down that path.
Definitely. I really like what Germany does. So they've got the German apprenticeship program. And like right around age 12, they kind of identify the students, where their strengths and weaknesses lie. And they say, okay, this group over here, you guys are going to go to university because you're really good with the textbooks and, regurgitating information from all that. And then this group over here, you guys are good, visual and hands-on learners. So you're going to go over here and we're going to introduce you to some skilled trades. You're going to pick the one that fits you the best. And like, that's the direction that they go. And society looks at them as equals. They're like, okay, we need doctors and lawyers, but we also need plumbers, pipe fitters, and welders. We need that as a society to continue to grow and evolve and stuff like that. Like, I mean, you've brought up robots a couple of times and AI and stuff like that. There's only so much that stuff can do. I mean, look at the bridge that just collapsed up there in, Pennsylvania, I-95. It's going to be like a 2 or 3 month shutdown and anticipated. It's probably going to be like closer to 6 to 8. But you're not bringing robots and AI out there to fix that stuff. I mean, you need people rigging up the debris, getting it out of there, driving it, hauling it, removing it. And then you've got the concrete and the construction workers and the welders and everything that are going to go out there and put the rebar in and pour the concrete and weld up the girders and the gussets and all that stuff. You need people physically on hand. Robots are great, if I've got to build one widget 5,000 times and that's all my company produces. But if I'm building a different part or I'm going out on site to do things, you need a physical body out there to be able to think and act and move, because as well as I do, things just don't go according to plan all the time. It looks good on paper, but it's probably not going to fit once you get out in the field. You've got to have people out there to be able to modify that and troubleshoot and think on their feet and be able to do this stuff manually, because a robot's just not going to be able to go out there and do it.
Yeah, you cannot replace, the ingenuity and the manual, a portion of working with your hands. It's just not there. And that's why we just need to keep investing and just keep getting the messaging out about the skilled trades, because it can't fix itself. You can't rely on AI or automation to do this. It's not there yet. That's why, I always say, on the white collar jobs, ChatGPT and all the other stuff might replace a lot of white collar jobs, and it's to some degree more secure on the blue collar future. It's just an interesting turn of the tides there. But there's a great opportunity right now to get into the skilled trades. The window is there. It's needed. Companies are I see it all the time. They're needing people. They're needing welders. They're needing electricians, carpenters, and so on and so on and so on. But things need to change. Need to come to some sort of middle ground. Companies need to come to some sort of middle ground with wages, with individuals. And look, there's a lot of work that has to be done on both ends, but I think we can get there. And I think we're making strides to get to that next level, that next step to get us to where we want to be.
Yeah. I almost think like companies need to set up not necessarily like a recruiting position, but something to that effect, to where, they say, okay, this is the type of work that we do. These are the type of individuals that we're looking for. We'll use welding, just because it's a convenient topic. We're a welding company. We need welders, and, everything that we put together or assemble or fabricate or install all revolves around welding. Okay, go. That you need welders. Reach out to your local vocational school, your tech school, whether it's, college or high school level or whatever the case may be. Go out there and tell the instructor, hey, we have a need for 15 to 20 welders over the next 5 to 7 years. We're going to pull them in 3 at a time. So here's the skills that we're looking for. And if a bunch of companies do that, that instructor has a great idea of what his curriculum needs to be. It doesn't have to be a state mandated curriculum, because that's all over the place, written by somebody that's never been into a welding shop. So I mean, their curriculum's just, it's weird how they set it all up and everything. They want to give you a little bit of everything, but like, let's focus on the industries that are surrounding us. What do they need? Because at the end of the day, the students are there so they can get placed in employment. That's their goal. They want to go, they want to learn this skill set, and then they want to go to work. The instructor needs to be teaching them what they need to know to find that work in their local area. A lot of people don't want to travel. Most of the folks that came through my program, the younger ones, they didn't want to travel. Very few. Maybe like one student out of, every 15 would want to travel. The rest of them, they want to stay local. So what are these companies doing around here? You know, do I have a bunch of structural steel companies? Do I have a bunch of fabrication companies, manufacturing? Okay, these are the things that I need to be teaching my students so that when they graduate, they can go to any one of these different companies in the area. So I think what companies need to start doing is going down to the local tech schools and supporting them and say, hey, you know, we've got these machines we need to get rid of. Do you guys take donations? I got all this scrap metal back here. Can we bring them out to your facility and let you guys, you know, weld on it? And, you know, you're doing yourself a favor, because once those students finish up that class, they've been welding on your material for the past 6 months. They're going to go in there and ace your weld test and be able to weld on your material all day long. So I think, you know, a lot of companies scream about we can't find help anywhere, but they're just putting a ad up on monster.com. They're not putting any physical effort to go down to the local trade schools and say, hey, what can we do to support you so that you can in turn support us? I mean, I think that's what it's going to take. A lot of companies, you know, they've got to start getting a little bit more proactive.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a combined effort, right, on both ends. And each side needs to see the perspective of the other side. Maybe that's just not there. And that just needs to work itself out. But yeah, I'm in full agreement with you on companies just need to look within to see what they are not doing, what opportunities. Just listing a listing on Monster is just not gonna. I mean, that's not gonna cut it today. You know, working with individuals and you know, social media, putting their listing what they do out there. You know, the projects that they're on. What does a welder do? Well, this is what a welder does. What does an electrician do? This is what electricians do. Well, this is what a plumber does. All this, you know, individual trades, and just, you know, messaging out to the younger generation, and working with them, and obviously having a mentorship program and being open to learn, to see what they are not doing. Some of these companies, what are things that we're not offering, and then, you know, hopefully over time it will start to, you know, turn and things will start to get better. But I think it's just it's a work in progress. I don't think there is one thing that's going to make it happen, but I think it's just a work in progress. But I think we're starting to kind of get there slowly. But it's not, you know, it's not just one thing that's kind of going to make it happen.
Yeah, it's a culmination of a bunch of different efforts combined to, you know, start pushing this. Whether it's, like you said, the podcast, you know, the things that you're doing on social media. I mean, a lot of other folks they're kind of pushing the good word about skilled trades in general. So, I mean, we just got to keep banging on that drum and slowly moving the needle.
Exactly. And that's what I do every day, is I bang the drum. Because I feel if I'm not there, not banging the drum, I'm doing an injustice, and I'm not, you know, making enough of an impact. So that's why I show up every day, and that's why I keep pounding the message out there.
Yeah, it's same thing, man. That's why I'm putting out new episodes every week, just because I'm passionate about this trade. I want to get more people brought into the fold and show them that, hey, you can make an awesome life and a great career out of, you know, skilled trades.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sky's the limit. Again, I'll reiterate, it's what you put in is what you get out. And you want to climb that ladder of success, you need to put time and effort in.
No, 100%. So, Andrew, before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on your different platforms?
Sure. On LinkedIn, I'm under Andrew Brown. On YouTube, I'm under Toolfetch, my company. My company is toolfetch.com. But if you want to talk about skilled trades, hit me up. If you want to talk about tools and equipment, I'd love to talk shop.
Well, awesome. Andrew, thanks again for coming out to Weld Wednesdays with AWS. I really appreciate your time and everything you're doing to advance the message of skilled trades.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get out of here, I wanted to let you all know about the AWS Summer of Learning promo going on right now. Whether you aim to enhance your skill set, explore cutting-edge technology, strengthen your foundational knowledge, or prepare for a certification, AWS is here to make this your most powerful summer yet. Take advantage of 15% discounts on self-paced courses and professional development webinars at aws.org/powerful. For more information on AWS and how you can become a member, head on over to aws.org. Thank you all so much for listening to this month's installment of Weld Wednesdays with AWS, and be sure to tune in the first Wednesday of every month for new episodes. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.